Last week, we covered the first third of the 2024 Eurovision Iceberg. Now it's time to do the next one. Last time we covered everything from Xi Jinping to the Jeg. You'll need to brace yourself because this time it's gonna get even weirder. Quickly before we begin, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to follow me and my editor Jay on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram as well. You can join the Discord server using the link in the description. And if you'd like to support the channel financially and get videos a day early, you can do so over on Patreon. Without further ado, there's a lot to get through here, so let's get straight into tier 4, starting with the AI ban. I gotta be honest, personally, I hate AI. I hate ChatGPT. I think it's rotting everyone's minds. That is an opinion that thankfully seems to be shared by the European Broadcasting Union. Given its extraordinary advances in telling us to run with scissors or reminding us to eat at least one rock a day, the EBU took notice of the oncoming threat of AI in creative industries. The Deputy Director General of the organization said in an interview that creativity should come from humans and not from machines, and pledged to reflect on how to put that into the Eurovision rulebook. They haven't taken any action yet, so we should expect some more cat-handed attempts at AI songwriting over the next few years. More on this in a minute. San Marino, you're not getting away with what you did this year. Spain fires Eva Mora. Spain has been underachieving in Eurovision for years and years, but they did make some changes in the last few years that finally got some results in 2022. That year, with the delegation led by Eva Mora, Chanel finished in 3rd place in Turin. And to be honest, there were some pretty high hopes for Blanca Paloma coming the following year as well. Unfortunately, things did not go to plan. Blanca finished last in the televotes, and after the contest, Eva was replaced as the head of delegation by Ana Maria Bordas. Personally, I think it's completely ridiculous to change your head of delegation after one slightly dodgy result. And to be honest, I and a lot of other people think that Blanca Paloma was robbed. What makes it worse is that the replacement head of delegation is the same one that just a few years ago gave us this. Just do it for your lover. Moving on to Oi Kosovo. This was the winning song of the inaugural Festivali I Këngësh Kosovo edition. This took place in late 2023, and in theory, this show will in future be a national selection method for Kosovo in Eurovision. That, of course, would require Kosovo to be allowed to enter the contest, which doesn't look likely anytime soon. As for the song, it's a little odd, but to be honest, it's kind of growing on me. I do hope that one day we do get to see Kosovo in the contest. Nebulosa at UVPSM. Spain's representatives at the contest this year, Nebulosa, previously participated in the Samarinese national selection, Una Voce per San Marino. There is an actual video of them auditioning for that show last year, but they didn't even make it to the semi-finals. UVPSM AI song. Speaking of that national final and speaking of AI, one of the weirdest partnerships that any country went for this year was the Samarinese broadcaster partnering with a company called Kasperaki to have an AI entrant in the final of the show. How it worked was AI generated a series of songs that were then worked on in a songwriting camp in collaboration with interested singers. What that ended up with was a 4-song pre-selection, of which the winner would get an automatic qualification spot to the final of the show and not have to participate in the semi-finals. I'm gonna hold back on talking about the winner of this process because there is a separate item for that later in this video. Mal Retkaseri fraud. Somehow, this man won the Albanian show Festivali I Këngësh this year. Unsurprisingly, as happens most years with Albania, this immediately led to accusations of nepotism and of rigging. These were based around a couple of things. Firstly, that Mal's mother is a famous folk singer from Kosovo, and secondly, that the winner of the televote in that show, and therefore Albania's Eurovision participant, Besa Kokadima, is the daughter of a prominent Albanian politician who is in the same party as the director of the show. There were allegations of corruption last year, and there will probably be more next year. At this point, it's basically an institution of the contest. Victoria's return. Victoria represented Bulgaria at the contest in 2021, and she was also selected for 2020 before it was cancelled. She sent this tweet in November that sent Eurovision fans into a frenzy. We are, of course, known for our calm and measured response to literally everything. After we had all jumped to conclusions, it was revealed that she wasn't bringing Bulgaria back to the contest and she wasn't returning to Eurovision. Instead, she was simply releasing her own version of All I Want for Christmas Is You. Ollie Alexander and announcement reveal hints. A video was posted on the BBC's Eurovision Instagram feed announcing Ollie Alexander's participation in the contest. There were several hints in the background of this video that fans quickly latched onto. These included the dizzy emojis on the phone box, the number 26, and the phone box displaying the words Night Call with a 4. These all ultimately pointed towards the release date and the song title of Ollie's entry. You're Mine lyrics. This is the name of the singer Milo's entry into the Norwegian national selection Melodi Grand Prix this year. Unfortunately, the lyrics of the song were a little suspect. There was a lot of criticism, both in Norwegian media and in fan circles, on the basis of lines like, "I would never hurt you, baby, unless you trying to leave me, then maybe." The argument here was that the song was glorifying domestic violence. Milo actually hit back against these claims on Twitter, saying that he was playing a character, and of course he never would mean to glorify that. However, it's quite reasonable to see how in a small performance someone could miss this. You could also argue that even if you're playing a character, it's still pretty bad taste. In any case, probably for the best for everyone involved, Milo was knocked out in the semi-finals of the competition, meaning the controversy died a death. Melissa Mantzoukas' Liar. We had an item which was sort of about this on the Iceberg last year. To jog your memories, Melissa Mantzoukas participated in the sort of half-internal selection that Greece did last year. She didn't win, but she did come second. She then made a legal challenge against the result, which she said was mathematically impossible. After alienating the Greek broadcaster and ensuring she never gets selected for Eurovision in the future, she lost and Victor Vernikos went to Eurovision instead. This then had a bit of a full circle moment at the contest this year after it was revealed that Cilia Kapsis would be singing for Cyprus with the song Liar. The thing is, last year, Melissa Mantzoukas had tried to represent Greece with this exact song, and there is in fact leaked audio out there of her version of it. I can't play it here because the whole video would get taken down and I would get a copyright strike, but it's out there if you want to find it. To be honest, I do feel a little bit bad for Melissa. Imagine, not only did you not get into Eurovision, not only did your legal challenge fail, guaranteeing that you will never get selected by the broadcaster again, but then a 17-year-old Australian shows up, pinches your song, goes to another country and participates with it. The fact that Cilia Kapsis then made it to the final was probably the last straw and a big kick in the teeth. MESC's third semi-final. Malta's national selection had 4 semi-finals this year, taking place much earlier than basically any other event of the season. There were 12 spots in the final from the 4 semi-finals. The twist was that the 12 top-scoring songs across all the semis were the ones that went through to the final. This meant that it was possible for an entire semi-final to be knocked out and not have a single participant make it through to the final of the show. This is exactly what happened with the third semi-final. This is completely brutal, but as one of the few people who has listened to the songs in this semi-final, trust me, you didn't miss out on anything. MGP voting changes. With this, we're going back to Norway, where they changed the voting system of their national final this year. Stig Karlsson, who is the outgoing Norwegian head of delegation, has made a lot of comments in the media since Eurovision in 2023, advocating for more say for the public over the juries. He put his money where his mouth is this year by changing the Norwegian system so that 60% of the results came from the public and 40% from the juries. This actually changed the winner of the show, because if it was still 50-50, Kano would have been sent back to Eurovision instead with their song Dum Diggy Da. I am a certified Kano doubter, so to be honest, I'm very relieved that this didn't make it to the show. Długa je noc versus Diamanti Grezzi. These two songs participated in the Serbian and Italian national selections respectively, and they had the exact same intro. This is what the intro of Długa je noc sounds like. And here's Diamanti Grezzi. Philip Baloch, who sung the song Długa je noc, confirmed that the reason for this was that the two artists had bought the exact same sample from the same sampling service. Looking into this, I actually found this same sample on a bunch of other entries as well, including the song Majesty by July Jones, and this song from the Portuguese national selection in 2022. Point being, there might be a little bit of a lack of creativity here, but there was no plagiarism. RTVE, a quality delegate, quits. We're talking about Spain here, with RTVE being the Spanish national broadcaster. Montserrat Boix, this person I'm just gonna put the name on screen. This person was their equality delegate, so they sat on their central board. They resigned in protest against the victory of Nebulosa at the Spanish national selection, Benidorm Fest. The reason for this was that the song Zora can be used as a pejorative word against women. Therefore, the delegate, whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce again, insisted that the song was not empowering, despite what the artist said. Jalice in Sanremo and in UVPSM. Jalice are an Italian band that participated in Eurovision in 1997 for Italy. Since then, they have been rejected for the Sanremo Music Festival, which is the show that Italy uses to select its entry, 25 times. They finally appeared again this year, but only as guests. Shortly after, they were announced as a participant in San Marino's national selection. Unfortunately, the 10th place that they got in the show at the end shows it didn't quite work out. Blanca in a Sanremo music video. For those of you who don't remember Blanca, it's this girl. The Italian band The Colours, who participated in Sanremo this year in Italy, unexpectedly brought her in to do a dance routine during the music video. The song is actually pretty good, but it didn't make any waves in Sanremo and finished 16th overall. It did go double platinum in Italy, so something tells me they're probably not particularly bothered that they didn't win. Natalia accuses Valeria of buying SIM cards. Moldova's national final has always been a little bit chaotic, and it once again lived up to that billing this year. Natalia Barbu got a maximum of 12 points from the jury, but only got 10 points from the public. Therefore, she was tied with the second place in the jury and first place in the televote. That was Valeria Pasha with her song Anti-Princess.
Call my name Anti-Princess.
The broadcaster decided to give the victory to Natalia, but that didn't stop her in the press conference after the show of accusing Valeria of rigging the televote. This takes us nicely onto our next item, which is Valeria Pasha appeals Moldovan national final results. Valeria pledged to challenge the result on the basis of the fact that she was tied on points with Natalia, but the organizing committee chose to send Natalia over her. There was no provision in the rules that stipulated that either the televote or the jury would take precedence in the event of a tie. This then led the Moldovan broadcaster to go public with information showing serious irregularities in the televotes for Valeria. A quarter of her votes had come from invalid numbers, and a large number had come from countries including Aruba, Barbados, Bangladesh, the Bahamas, Indonesia, and Vietnam. Safe to say, Natalia was vindicated, and Valeria quickly went quiet after that. Holograph concert. Staying firmly in Moldova, the Romanian band Holograph were invited to be the interval act at that same national final. Their idea of an interval? A full 45-minute long set. The participants all awkwardly danced along while the viewing public on the official Eurovision channel looked on in bemusement, alongside Moldovans wondering out loud why they couldn't just send Holograph to the contest instead of the terrible songs that had just been presented to them. This says a lot about the actual quality of the show, which was hilariously bad this year. Loco Boombox. This is the greatest song of all time.
To the right, dos, tres, cuatro, salta. Cha-cha-cha, arriba, abajo, acento, talento, one more round.
For some reason, this didn't even make it to the final of the Sammarinese national selection. Luckily for fans of Senor Boombox, such as myself,
You need to leave!
he's pledged to attempt to participate in Benidorm Fest in 2025. That means we will see him again on his inevitable march to victory in Basel in May. Game of Chess. This is the name of a song by Azeri singer Aysel, who participated and failed to qualify for the country in 2018. She eventually lost to the absolute snooze fest that was their actual entry, Azunla Apar, but not before an absolutely abysmal live performance was leaked. Unfortunately, again, I can't show you it here because the label immediately copyright strikes any copies of it posted to YouTube. Crystal Ball returns. In 2023, ESC Crystal Ball made a whole series of leaks before the contest about a range of national final lineups and internally selected songs. This year, they made a one-off return to leak the Israeli song before it was released. This was in protest against their participation. My favorite part of this is probably the guy in the comments tagging Shutterstock, desperately trying to get them to copyright strike Crystal Ball. Safe to say, Shutterstock did not act on random Twitter man's recommendation. As for Crystal Ball, they have been inactive ever since, and their identity was never confirmed. Loredana Berti wants to go to Eurovision Eurovision to spite her ex-husband. Italian music legend Loredana Berti entered Sanremo in Italy this year with only one goal in mind: to win and go to Eurovision in order to annoy her ex-husband, who just happens to be Swedish tennis legend and multiple Grand Slam winner Bjorn Borg. Such was her commitment to this that after she didn't win Sanremo, she went to San Marino and entered their national selection instead, where she finished second. Sadly, this put an end to her dreams of annoying her ex-husband by going to Eurovision in Sweden. John Travolta at Sanremo. This is one of the most confusing items on the iceberg, and thanks to Chiara again for helping me sort of understand it. Basically, John Travolta showed up at Sanremo this year, but in a slightly bizarre way. He did a segment where he had a little dance, but for some reason he was wearing these extremely bright shoes. Allegedly, he had been paid by a shoe company to wear these during the show. This caused some controversy as there was speculation about whether the TV network Rai had allowed this. They insisted that they had no idea, and the host of the show, Amadeus, was just as in the dark as they were. In any case, the regulator in Italy recently fined the broadcaster €206,000 for hidden advertising. Already after the controversy, Rai had chosen to remove all traces of it from YouTube, so all I have for you is this grainy footage that somebody helpfully uploaded. Preskvica nationalist lyrics. Preskvica entered the Serbian national final with her song Gnezda Orlova. This rapidly became one of the favourites to win the whole show. Unfortunately, it quickly became apparent that the lyrics of the song were a little suspect. The song spoke of black birds covering the sky and destroying the eagle's nest, and it didn't take long for it to be pointed out that the Albanian flag has a two-headed black bird on it. The eagle is the national bird of Serbia. Meanwhile, Serbians consider Kosovo to be the cradle of the Serbian nation. The song didn't win the national selection, but it did win the televote by a very wide margin. I'm going to go ahead and say that this was probably because it appealed very heavily to one very specific part of the political spectrum. Berlin in the Rain. This one is pretty simple. In the official Eurovision app, during the voting for the Luxembourg Song Contest, which was the national selection of, well, Luxembourg, the song Drowning in the Rain by Crick was mislabeled as Berlin in the Rain. It won the public vote by a slim margin anyway, so it didn't have an effect on the result. ESCZ results anomalies. ESCZ was the first national final this year, and it decided the Czech representative at the contest. Naturally, as is tradition, they got us off to a great start by giving us a results controversy right off the bat. It was a little suspicious when it was revealed that Aiko had won the international vote by an absolute mile. Several fans reported that they had accidentally voted for Aiko while they were attempting to listen back to snippets of the songs, because when you tapped on the name of the song in the app that was being used to vote, it simply cast your vote immediately. Aiko was listed first in the app, so therefore people were clicking on the first song, accidentally voting and not being able to do anything about it. The going theory is that she won in a landslide because thousands of people did this. In reality, there is no concrete evidence that this happened on a wide scale, and as we saw from Aiko's performance in Malmö, she was clearly a deserving winner of ESCZ. For this one, I'm going to leave the tinfoil hats in the cupboard. Colleen and Marvin Dietmann. Austria's representative at the contest this year, Colleen is married to Marvin Dietmann, who has been involved behind the scenes for more than a decade. Perhaps most significantly, he staged the 2014 winner Conchita Wurst's performance of Rise Like a Phoenix. According to his LinkedIn page, he's been involved with the Austrian delegation since at least 2006. Because of these links, there was some suggestion that Colleen's selection was based in nepotism. There is absolutely no evidence that this is true, and We Will Rave is a banger, so I think we should leave poor Colleen alone on this one. Lasagna and Taya as Lorraine and Carrier. Baby Lasagna and Teodora recreated this picture of Lorraine and Carrier from last year. That's all there really is to it. Barcelona Dead Crowd returns. The Barcelona Eurovision pre-party has a bit of a bad reputation when it comes to the audience. They are not the most energetic, and unfortunately, this year was no different. Artists were receiving what I would describe as mild reactions. Obviously, Nebulosa brought the house down with their performance of Zora. Thanks to the fact they were in front of a home crowd, but other than that, it was not the best. Marina Satti plagiarism allegations. Greek lyricist Evi Drutsa decided to pick a fight with Marina Satti this year by claiming that in her song Zari, Marina had plagiarized her. This is specifically centered around this, which is heard throughout the song. The reason Evie was so angry about this is that she is credited as a songwriter on this song from 2021. This is a bit of a stretch anyway and doesn't really need disproving, but I'm going to do it anyway. Here is Marina Satti using a very similar device on a live recording done in 2020, a full year before this song was released. Evie did eventually apologise to Marina, but something tells me that this relationship is going to need to be fixed up a little bit more. Fame story in Greece. The background to this is that much like siblings that hate each other, the Cypriot broadcaster RIK and the Greek broadcaster ERT really do not get on. The central bone of contention that is making their relationship difficult is whether the Cypriot delegation can use the show Fame Story to select their Eurovision entry. The reason for this is that Fame Story is also broadcast in Greece. Essentially, by using it as an avenue to select the Cypriot entry, it would violate ERT's exclusive right to broadcast Eurovision content in the country. That country being Greece, not Cyprus. In the end, the EBU actually got involved with this one to seek clarification from the Cypriot broadcaster. Their reply claimed that the show was not a national final, but that those who did well in it would be considered by the broadcaster for a potential Eurovision selection. They also said that the actual selection would happen in a live show in January. In the end, absolutely none of this happened, and they internally selected an Australian instead. Bambi 666. Bambi Thug's performance at Eurovision this year for Ireland was stunning and also extremely witchy. It had a lot of references to the occult, and it concluded with Bambi putting a curse on the dancer that was on stage with them. With this background, it was absolutely fitting that the song finished 6th overall, 6th with the juries, and 6th with the televote, making their result 666. Now we're moving on to Tier 5, starting with Kurt Kaleas. Kurt Kalea represented Malta at the contest in 2012, and the Balkan guy got very excited at the prospect of him potentially returning after his name was seen on the list of participants for the Maltese national selection this year. Unfortunately, Kurt then confirmed on Facebook that there was in fact another singer called Kurt Kalea from Malta who had entered the contest instead. This broke the Balkan guy's heart, but at least we still had Matt Black. RTVE wants to sue leakers. This year's Benidorm Fest, which is the national selection in Spain, didn't get off to the best start after all of the songs were leaked. The broadcaster took this extremely seriously, tweeting, "After what happened in the last few hours, RTVE's legal services are collecting all of the information to take legal actions they consider appropriate to defend the interests of artists and the corporation. Thanks for your cooperation. We keep working. See you on the 14th. As far as we know, nobody actually got sued for this, but I like to think that somewhere in some RTVE office, there was some poor intern lumbered with the task of attempting to identify the anonymous Twitter users who were leaking the songs. Marina Satti rejects 150 songs. Marina Satti represented Greece at the contest this year, and after a submission period where anyone could put a song forward for consideration, she allegedly listened to and rejected 150 of them. The song she ended up sending, Zari, actually did use some pieces of the 200-ish submissions that were made in total. To be honest, I think there is a bit of an agenda at play here. There has been a motivation in the Greek media to portray Marina as a bit of a diva. But the reality is, if you do an open selection and you get 200 submissions, obviously you're going to have to reject the vast majority of them out of hand. That happens in every selection, every single year. Samantha forced to withdraw. We're going back to Albania here and the Festivali I Kengesh. This show got off to a rough start this year after multiple artists withdrew before a note had been sung. One of those was Samantha Caravella, and she claimed that her stage performance was disapproved by FIK's organisers as it did not meet the festival's criteria. This national final is particularly stiff and old-fashioned, with very little staging work and a live orchestra for every song, very much in the mould of Sanremo in Italy. If Samantha is to be believed, then her stage show was simply too much for them. In any case, we'll never know the truth, but it looks like some changes are coming to the show this year. We should hopefully see a little more staging, a little more dancing, and a little less stiffness than in past editions. Anti-Elsa Lila corruption. We are staying in Albania for this one, and it's yet another corruption scandal that we haven't talked about yet. Elsa Lila was considered the favourite to win the national selection this year, and most fans, including myself, were pretty stunned when she didn't even place in the top 3. Many people speculated, including in this Reddit rant that I'm going to reference several times in this video, that the show was rigged, as we detailed earlier. As a result, the artist who got the best reception in the room, that is Elsa Lila, ended up walking away empty-handed, astounded she didn't even place in the top 3. Again, we will probably never know the full details of this. Given how terrible the actual winner of this show is, it would not surprise me at all if some of these allegations ended up being true. Dannii Minogue for Australia. The first half of the Eurovision year, by which I mean September through to the start of January, is basically just silly season. This is the time where every random artist that you haven't heard of in half a decade or more is rumoured to be participating. This year, one of those artists was Dannii Minogue, most famous for being Kylie's sister. In addition to that, she also had moderate chart success about 20 years ago, making her an ideal candidate for the United Kingdom in the early 2010s. She quote tweeted the announcement revealing what the 2024 stage would look like at the contest, with the message, "The stage is set and the countdown has begun." This sent Eurofans into a frenzy over the idea that she could end up representing her home country, Australia. In the end, obviously, this didn't happen and was never ever going to. Maltese casket. Sadly, I cannot find the relevant media for this anywhere. It doesn't appear to be available anymore, but essentially, there was a 10-minute long skit at the start of one of the semi-finals, or immediately before one of the semi-finals, of the Maltese national selection. To this day, nobody knows if it was part of the show or not, and because it's basically lost media now, we probably never will. Gauta is Super Rob. Remember these wolves from Norway from 2 years ago? Well, one of them is back, sort of, and this time, instead of pretending to be a wolf, he's a giant robot. Gaute Ormsson returned to the Norwegian national selection this year as Super Rob, alongside Erica Norwich. They sung about their slightly unsettling human and robot relationship that I don't really want to get into the logistics or practicals of. In the end, they came third in the Norwegian national selection, but not before creating a song that tortures you for days after you hear it. Seriously, this thing burns into your brain and you cannot escape it. Joost Klein's Russia song. It feels like a long time ago now, but Joost Klein's participation in Eurovision actually started with a very different scandal to the one that ended it. When he was first selected, it was raised that he had previously released a song that came across very pro-Russian. In the song, he sung the lines, "My name is Joost Klein, I love Russia, man, I really want to marry a Russian woman, I want a Russian lady." The Dutch broadcaster Avrotros responded that Joost did not make political statements in his songs. After this, everyone lived happily ever after, and there was absolutely no more drama involving Joost either before or at the contest. Elsa Lila's bought victory. This is like the opposite of the item we had a few minutes ago. The conspiracy theory was that the Albanian national selection was rigged in favour of Elsa Lila this year. A rumour even circulated that there would be a mass withdrawal from the show because other participants knew about it. As we just discussed, this turned out to be completely untrue. Luxembourg songs forced on artists. Luxembourg came back to the contest this year and introduced a national final that had an interesting approach to their artists. Almost every single participant was given a new song to do rather than the one they had submitted to the show. One Luxembourgish artist blew the whistle to this fact on Instagram. To add insult to injury, to be honest, most of the songs in the show were extremely generic. More often than not, they weren't very good. This, unsurprisingly, went down absolutely terribly in the local music scene and alienated just about everybody. Luxembourg have kept this format for next year, so I wish them luck in rebuilding all of the bridges they've burned. Georgian entry chosen in the Bahamas. There really isn't much to this one, so Nutsa, who was the Georgian entrant at Eurovision this year, was in the Bahamas when she chose and announced her Eurovision entry. I am not really sure this should be in tier 5. Cursed Stash Selfie. The singer of the Italian band The Colours, the one from earlier with the music video with Blanca in it, took this selfie in 2023. Italian fans got a hold of it during Sanremo and they started shitposting with it. Here are a few examples. San Giovanni lyrics. Staying in Italy, San Giovanni participated in Sanremo this year with his song Finiscimi.
Finiscimi, fammi sentire quanto sono pessimo.
Moldovan Come Song. This was an entry into the Moldovan national selection that had some very unsubtle lyrics. Let's flash back to this dramatic reading from national final season. Let me just have a taste. None of you must go to waste. I want you deep inside of me. If you leave, something stays anyway. Unfortunately for Sasha, she eventually finished in 9th place in the final and got a grand total of 233 votes. That's votes, not points, from the public. TVP selection rule change. Last year, there were allegations of corruption in the national final in Poland. So this year, with a sort of internal selection format, it would have been really helpful if the Polish broadcaster didn't change the rules at the last minute. Initially, the rules were that the jury panel had to rate every single song, all 200 of them, from 1 to 10. In the actual process, they awarded all of their top 10 songs a score from 10 down to 1 respectively. They then took a short list of 23 songs and voted again. None of this followed the regulations that were set out for the show and naturally led to more conspiracy theories about rigging. While we're on that subject, Happy Prince nepotism. In that same national selection, that shortlist included the artist Happy Prince. He scored 0 from every single judge except for 1. Former Eurovision participant Kasia Mosh gave him 8 points. Fans quickly noticed that Kasia had previously worked with Happy Prince and released a song with him in 2021. That said, as we know, the Polish broadcaster and this national final are totally incorruptible, so I'm sure there was absolutely nothing to this. San Marino AI Polar Bear. Remember the AI song competition that I was talking about before? This was the winner. Receiving an automatic qualification spot to the final was Dana Gillespie with her song The Last Polar Bear.
I'm just a polar bear who's trying to survive.
While appreciating this masterpiece, let's take a moment to talk about the woman who sung it. Dana Gillespie has released more than 70 albums. She once had flings with Bob Dylan and Mick Jagger and Michael Caine, and she was a longtime collaborator and friend of David Bowie. Una Voce per San Marino then is naturally the highlight of her career. San Remo bomb threat. An anonymous bomb threat was phoned in during one of the parties at San Remo, leading to it being evacuated. In the end, it turned out to be a prank call. San Marino Outlet Experience. The lead sponsor of the San Marinese national selection this year was the San Marino Outlet Experience. And in turn, we were reminded of their existence every 5 minutes for the entire 4-hour run of this show. They do have a pretty impressive array of products, and in the words of their own website, these brands are just wow. These brands are just wow! You can also eat in a restaurant where they will serve you some quite nice but clearly overpriced bowls of Hawaiian food. Go Tiffany. Sigga Osk entered the Icelandic national final this year with her song Into the Atmosphere. However, the rules of the show stipulate in the semi-final you have to sing in Icelandic. As a result, we first heard the Icelandic version entitled Atlan Alheimin. In the chorus of that version, it sounded remarkably like she was singing Go Tiffany, which immediately filled the comment section under the performance on YouTube. The sweetest bit of this is that Sigga actually found out about it. Then, at the end of her English language performance in the final, she did this. Sadly, Sigga only made it to 3rd in the selection, but given she's already participated a number of times, we can expect to hopefully see her back again in the future. The iconic bodysuit. A Reddit user questioned why the same or similar bodysuits kept appearing in Eurovision-related events. Here they've pictured Aiko, Erika Cody, Sarah Panici, and whoever this is. The background here is that these are all derivatives of a bodysuit made by the brand Mugler. This was a trend among pop stars a few years ago, and right on schedule, aka a few years late, Eurovision got on board the train as well. Gunilla versus Froken. For the first time, and not the last time in this series, it's time to introduce you to former model, TV personality, and real housewife, Gunilla Persson. A lot of weird things happened during her participation this year in Melodifestivalen. Most of them are in lower tiers than this one, so you've got a lot more to come from her. Things got personal very quickly between her and fellow contestant Fröken Snusk. After Gunilla made her feelings clear about Fröken Snusk's name, the return shot came from Fröken Snusk in the form of a song called Ride Me Like a Hollywood Wife. It doesn't take much imagination to work out who the Hollywood wife she is referring to is. While we're on the subject, Fröken Snusk, songwriter removed. Following the fake streams/money laundering scandal we talked about in part 1 involving Fröken Snusk, her alleged partner in crime, Rasmus Gotzi, was hastily removed from the list of songwriters for her Melodifestivalen entry. The explanation given was that Gotzi was not meant to be on the list in the first place and that it was a mistake. Therefore, his removal was correcting the record. However, it's awfully convenient that this happened immediately after a corruption scandal. Banana is a Sean Banan reject. Matt Black finished 2nd in the Maltese national selection this year with his song Banana. I was actually blessed enough to see this song live once, and it was everything that I hoped for. Matt Black even ate a banana and threw it across the room. 10 out of 10, no notes. This item, though, doesn't focus on the song itself, but rather its songwriters. Among them was Sean Banan, who previously sent banana-themed songs to Melodifestivalen in Sweden in 2012 and 2013. This led to fans speculating that Sean himself had rejected the song, leading to it eventually going to Matt Black instead. To be honest, Matt killed it during this performance, so I choose to believe that it was always intended to be for him. Look Telk is about erectile dysfunction. As with many items on this iceberg, a Eurovision fan on Reddit had a theory. This one was that Lithuania's 2024 entry, Look Telk by Sylvester Belt, was about erectile dysfunction. This theory stemmed from the lines of the song, which translated read as, "The sun doesn't rise, tell me if you'll stay near me," as well as the chorus, which reads, hang on, wait one more minute." This one actually went around the fandom enough that Sylvester himself tweeted in response. Epic Tax Party. Finland's 2024 representative, Windows 95 man, was previously contacted by the Finnish tax authorities to produce a song that encouraged people to pay their taxes, and it sounded like this. Bambi Thug versus Wee Wee Blogs. As with previous years, Wee Wee Blog staff members rated each song in the contest out of 10 as part of their Wee Wee jury series. This year, it took an unexpected twist. After two of the reviewers called Island's entry, which was Doomsday Blue by Bambi Thug, jarring, disjointed and difficult to enjoy, and muddy, messy and barely intelligible, Bambi Thug chose to voice their displeasure in response on Twitter, saying to the two reviewers that their taste in art was laughably uneducated, adding that, "I imagine your personal playlists are the same as what is played in all the normcore clubs the cool cunt queers avoid." On the flip side, Bambi had much kinder words for Lucy, who rated the song 10 out of 10. Marina Satti stuck in an elevator. Marina Satti got stuck in an elevator minutes before she was meant to go on live TV in Greece. She went on Instagram Live while she was there to explain her absence. There is no photos that I can find of this and nothing more to this story. Look Telk lost MV. While Sylvester Belt did eventually win the Lithuanian national selection by a considerable margin in the televote, he kind of came out of nowhere to do so. So before the contest, there was a very low budget music video made for his song. This has since been deleted and it wasn't replaced by a new video. However, some clips do still remain and they have been posted by fans on Twitter. Flag Parade rehearsal. On the day of the grand final, Nemo, Bambi Thug and Marina Satti all missed the flag parade at the start of the rehearsal on the morning of the show. It quickly emerged that the reason for this was that there had been yet another incident of an Israeli delegation member filming them without permission, and they had taken exception to this. By this point, multiple artists and press had been photographed or filmed by the delegation against their will, with the photos then being shared on social media with derogatory captions. The aftermath of this specific incident took too long to deal with, and that meant that Bambi Thug missed their stage time, so they couldn't rehearse in that show. Honestly, given how many disasters there were on the day of the final and the day before, this was only like the 8th most dramatic thing that happened. Garfield Eurovision dubs. Baby Lasagna became the latest in a surprisingly long list of Eurovision artists to be cast in dubs of the Garfield movie. Credit to the Reddit user who clearly had a lot of time on their hands because they went through the cast list of every single language. In there, they discovered Karia, Intars Busilis, Marco Con and Sanna Nielsen. Non-binary flag scandals. This one is actually a few different things, and they are all related to flags being allowed and not being allowed at the contest this year. On the day of the final, a fan was refused entry into the arena with a non-binary flag, and it was confiscated by security. After that, Nemo from Switzerland walked out during the flag parade with a non-binary flag. Finally, after the show, the official Eurovision account posted this image with the caption, "Non-binary finery." In my opinion, the absolute brass neck of this is an under-discussed part of the EBU's incompetence from that week. Not content with one flag scandal, the EBU also ended up with an angry letter from the EU on their desk after security also prevented fans from entering the arena with the EU flag. This got a response from the Director General of the EBU himself, promising to revisit the flag policy before future years. Personally, I think it's a shame that he couldn't extend the same courtesy to the fan who was just humiliated and forced to hand over their non-binary flag outside the arena. Maybe that's just me. Austria/Australia at the flag parade. In the afternoon rehearsal on the Friday for the grand final, when Colleen from Austria was walking out onto stage, the background proudly showed the colours and name of Australia. A quick question though for the person who posted this on Twitter with the caption, "This is iceberg material." If you wanted it to be in the video, then why have you made my life more difficult by blocking me. Lolanda, a simple one to finish off this tier. This is the pre-party ES set list, which has the Portuguese entrant Yolanda listed as Lolanda. Tier 5 for a typo feels a bit far along for me. We are now on to tier 6, starting with Charles Leclerc for Monaco. After Eurovoix reported on the news that Monaco now had a broadcaster that was able to participate in Eurovision if they chose to do so, F1 driver Charles Leclerc tweeted in response saying that he would be willing to participate. For context, he's from Monaco. While the specific segment of Eurofans who love both Eurovision and F1, that includes myself, were very excited about this, Monaco still are not back in the contest, and Charles still has more pole positions to choke. Therefore, I doubt this is going to happen. Daniel Levi on and on. Daniel Levi participated in the Estonian national selection Eesti Laul this year with his song Over the Moon.
Last night I dreamt I jumped over the moon.
It turns out that Daniel had had some success before with this song that has 500 million streams on YouTube. He did not have the same success in Eesti Laul, finishing in 4th place, but he did still do better than the shampoo saleswoman who we'll talk about in a minute. Pedestal, pre-September 1st performance. Aiko won ESCZ with her song Pedestal, but shortly after, a clip emerged of her performing it during the summer of 2023 at a small festival. This is against the eligibility rules of the contest, which say that you must have not performed your song publicly before the 1st of September, the year before the contest. That said, this is not really enforced. It happened with Riley from Denmark last year, and going back further, it actually happened to Jamala in 2016. Usually, the EBU is happy to let it slide if it's an insignificant performance that happened in front of a small crowd. That was the case here. It didn't affect Aiko's participation in the contest, and she ended up missing out on the final by a narrow margin. Alan Torres, channel deletion. Eurovision YouTube creator Alan Torres found his channel suddenly deleted after he received a number of copyright strikes from the Moldovan musician Sasha Bognabov. And I'm bleeping out his name and not showing a photo of him because if I don't, he'll probably try and copyright strike this video as well. What I will say is that he is known for his songs such as Married to Twins and Love Me Like Your Daughter, which hopefully tells you everything you need to know about him. Thankfully, after an appeal, Alan's channel was quickly restored. Russian Almost Naked Party. Russia might not be in the contest, but they still make it onto this iceberg. A number of people associated with the contest chose to attend an almost naked party being hosted by a prominent Russian celebrity. These figures included Dima Bilan, who won the contest in 2009, and Philip Kirkorov, who haunted the contest every year until the last couple of years. This ended up being a massive scandal in Russia, including one attendee coming to the party completely naked except for one strategically placed sock over his penis. Dima Bilan insisted that he didn't know what the party was going to be like and that he had attended fully clothed. Philip Kirkorov ended up having to put out a full video apology on Instagram. Elsa Lila in San Remo. This was on the Iceberg last year, so I don't know why it's here. If you want to go and find out about it, go and watch last year's video. UVPSM participants ratio. This year's Una Voce per San Marino had 129 semi-finalists. This meant a participant for every 261 citizens of San Marino. As insane as it sounds, a show this big actually makes really good business sense for the organizers. Each participant pays a fee when they sign up and another fee if they're put through to the semi-finals. Skylar's Vidbeer withdrawal rejected. After the results of the Ukrainian national selection Vidbeer were delayed, one of the artists attempted to withdraw from the show. They cited concerns around the delay making it no longer a fully fair fight. However, the broadcaster just kind of went, no. She was not allowed to withdraw on the basis that there was no provision to withdraw after you'd already participated. In the end, Skylar did appear at the results show the following day. Is Angelina Mango on Pinterest? There is nothing I can say that will do justice to this clip from a Eurovision journalist, Deben Adaremi, so I'm just going to play the highlights.
Is Angelina Mango on Pinterest? I mean, let's get real talk. Is Angelina Mango on Pinterest? What excites you? What gives you life? What turns you on?
Jabluszka. This horrific disaster of a song was submitted to the Polish national selection. That's enough of that, let's move on. Luna, Ketchup Princess. Luna from Poland became known as the Ketchup Princess in Polish media. This is thanks to her father, owning the company Davtona, which produces, among other things, ketchup. They accused Luna of using her family's wealth to get ahead at Eurovision. This is definitely unfair, as the tower was more than good enough to deserve a place at the contest. Unfortunately, her live performance fell just a little short. Dora is rigged for Vatra. Some Croatian fans, understandably jaded by years of mediocrity from their national selection, Dora, were convinced that this year's edition was rigged in favour of Slatka Suze Gorka Ljubav by Vatra. These rumours got so out of hand that other participants started being asked what they thought about them in interviews. As we saw, in the end, these rumours were quite clearly untrue, given the way Baby Lasagna wiped the floor with everyone. FDC host accuses Megara of using AI. The hosts of the Portuguese national final, Festival de Canção, got confused by the previously mentioned Polar Bear AI song. Instead of talking about that, they accidentally announced that the winner of the Sammarinese national selection this year, 1111 by Megara, was written by AI. Megara actually even put out a statement on Facebook dispelling these rumours. San Marino forgets artists in another building. After Jalise won the Best Look award at Una Voce per San Marino this year, there was some consternation after they didn't take to the stage to collect their trophy. Jalise took to social media afterwards and clarified the situation. In their statement, they said, "The award that was supposed to be given to us yesterday at Una Voce per San Marino has finally just arrived. Clarification. Yesterday we were with all the other artists at San Marino Outlet Experience, far from the theatre where the festival was taking place. And when Biggio and Melissa announced the award to Jalise, we were ready, but distant and therefore unable to get on stage in time to say thank you." So basically, the organisers had accidentally left all of the artists in another building, making it impossible for them to come to the stage in time to collect their awards. Good job. Why do you leave? Staying in San Marino for another item, when Megara won the show, there was a mixed reaction from the very partisan crowd, who were mostly supporting Loredana Berti with her song Pazza. Loredana had finished in second place. They showed their displeasure by leaving the hall before Megara's encore performance was complete. This led to the singer of the band, Kenzie, saying this.
Why do you leave?
Joost versus Eurovision World poll. Each year, the fan site Eurovision World runs a poll asking fans who they'd like to see win the contest. Things got a little complicated this year when Joost Klein from the Netherlands put the link to the poll on his Instagram story. The site admins suspended the poll shortly after. It then returned, but with new regulations stipulating that you could only vote once per IP address and you could no longer vote for your own country. UMK Malmö at Uden Musiken Kilpailu, or UMK for short, took a novel advertising approach by buying out space in Malmö, the host city of actual Eurovision. Playing on the fact that Finns had hoped to win Eurovision in 2023 with Karia and therefore host in 2024, they advertised the UMK host city, Tampere, as the wannabe Eurovision host city. Their attempt at viral marketing rapidly succeeded as this dominated the fandom for a few hours. Laura Poldver's shampoo line. Laura Poldver previously made it to Eurovision for Estonia alongside Koit Torma with their song Verona. That year, they failed to make it to the final. However, Laura, not deterred, returned to Eesti Laul this year. Unfortunately, her song This Is Where I Draw the Line was a bit of a snooze fest. While it did terribly in the show and didn't even make the final, fans noticed that simultaneously she was advertising for her newly launched range of hair products. I was in Estonia last week and I was actively looking for the product on the shelves and I couldn't see any of them, so it looks like her launch went about as well as her performance in the show. Alyona Alyona iconic pose. Alyona Alyona from Ukraine absolutely loves this pose. Like, seriously, she does this pose in every single photo. Pregnant Baltic men. Vice reassured fans that one of their members, Lancelot, had not quit the band after he was not present at one of their pre-party performances. They explained on Instagram that he was simply pregnant. I am not going to look into whether this served as any inspiration for someone over on AO3, because that's something I do not want to see. K-popification of Vice and Pulup. This refers to a K-pop style lyrics video on YouTube highlighting who is singing in each section of Vice and Pulup's song Nendes narkotikumidest ei teeme küll midagi. My personal favourite part of this is where it simply resorts to saying Ramo yelling something in the background. While I was in Estonia last week, I saw them performing in Tartu, and I can just confirm today that yes, they are indeed a K-pop band. Mango Palestine flag theory. Some Eurovision fans theorized that the way Angelina Mango ran onto stage with the Italian flag during the final flag parade was deliberately done to give the appearance of a Palestinian flag instead.
Italy.
Given that Angelina hasn't previously spoken publicly about this issue, it seems unlikely that this would be the way she'd do it. Charlotte Perrelli appearing thrice. Our Swedish hosts this year were clearly struggling for interval act a little bit. What this meant was they just kept hitting the emergency Charlotte Perrelli performance button instead, meaning she showed up a total of 3 times throughout Eurovision week. Angelina Mango singing Imagine. Angelina Mango is now singing Imagine in the press centre. This is utterly surreal.
You may say I'm a dreamer.
With that, we are now 2 out of 3 parts through this year's Iceberg, and the final part is coming next week. If you haven't already, make sure to go and watch part 1 featuring Mackwell, and make sure you're tuned in for part 3 where, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, will be my guest host. I cannot wait to share that with you, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss it. For now, take care, and I will see you soon.